Hi, I'm Susan Shaner with Sage Leadership Strategies, and I'm your host today of Community Forum. And I have the great pleasure to have with me Dr. John Clark, who is the recently appointed president of Western Connecticut State University. Welcome.
Susan, I'm delighted to be here.
Thank you for coming. And I say recently appointed because you just started July 1st.
You got it. Just a couple of weeks ago.
So lucky for us, we got you right in here. So can you give our audience an overview of your background and how you chose WestConn?
Yeah, sure. This, for me, is a dream come true. I think my whole life has been pointed to coming to Western Connecticut. Actually, it started, believe it or not, on 9/11.
Really?
Yes, I had been a frustrated academic. So a number of years ago, I was a graduate student in philosophy at New York University. And if you know the ways of the humanities, they had actually terminated the doctoral program at New York University. So what I did is I started working on Wall Street. And my dream was...
That's a huge switch.
It is a huge switch.
From a student of philosophy to Wall Street?
But here was the plan. The plan was that I'd make so much money that I'd come back to New York University and be every university's nightmare benefactor, and I'd endow a chair of philosophy, call it the John Clark Chair of Philosophy, and sit in it. So that didn't work. So I worked in Wall Street, and down in the Wall Street area. And at that time, when 9/11 hit, talk about being philosophical, a number of friends, and we all knew people who perished. One of my big clients, I was in investment banking, was the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey.
Oh, wow.
So I spoke with my wife, and we had 2 young daughters. And one of my clients had been New York State, New York City, and I'd worked with the government prior. And I said to my wife, why don't I leave Wall Street? We'll improve the quality of life with our daughters, maybe make a little bit less money, and I'll go back to government service. So I got a call from New York State, and they said, we don't understand why, an investment banker like you, I continue to go to school. So this is a lesson for all the viewers, just keep at it. And I got my doctorate
while you were working on Wall Street?
You got it, a doctorate in education from Columbia University.
That's amazing, you must have a lot of energy.
Yes, I had a lot of energy.
Wall Street's long hours.
As I explained to my wife, I said, some guys go fishing, some guys go bowling. I went up to the attic and did my dissertation because I love doing it. But at that time I thought I'd retire, and in my retirement I'd become an adjunct professor, so I'll get my doctorate. Little did I know that when the state folks were looking at my resume to go back to state service, I got the call. And they said, we didn't realize you had a doctorate in education. And I used to do workouts on the street. So I was used to dealing with very unhappy people. And they said, we have a situation at SUNY Plattsburgh. Would you consider applying for the interim president? Because there was an unfortunate tragedy. A young man died in a hazing incident. And there were myriads of problems. So I said, okay. So my wife and I looked at the map, and if you ever saw the map, Plattsburgh is near the Canadian border.
It's up there.
So, if you know our sense of humor, my wife told me, you're going to make less money, and now we're never going to see you. And I said, see, it's his wife. So that started I think the lesson, especially for our students, is there is a plan. You may not know it. I have had about 30 life plans, but you keep at it, and things work out, and in wonderful ways. So now I'm sitting here talking to you. So out of that great tragedy in 9/11, in at least my life story, comes this. So now I am in, my dream is being lived.
I'm curious, what did you do your dissertation on?
I did my dissertation on the works of the Blessed John Henry Cardinal Newman, who people may know wrote one of the great classics called The Idea of a University. And he was one of the founders of the Catholic University in Dublin, Ireland in the 19th century, and had been the former chaplain at Oxford University. And so his ideas still live, and he was a defender of the classic liberal arts, but also founded the medical school, which is now the National University of Ireland Medical School. So he had a very good sense of the professional aspects as well as the great liberal arts and the expansion of mind.
Wow. So what was your premise?
Well, here's my premise was my mother. I was sitting at Columbia wondering about my dissertation topic, and my mom is my great hero and role model. My mother was the daughter of Irish immigrants, also Hunter College class of 37 graduate. And Mom was a member of the Newman Club at Hunter College. At that point in time, in the late 30s, about 2 to 3% of women earned a bachelor's degree. And discrimination and the economics at the time dictated, you know what my mother did when she graduated from Hunter? She had to go directly to Catherine Gibbs Secretarial School. There were no jobs for women, and you didn't have a glass ceiling. The glass ceiling was about this high off the ground. And she later became the principal secretary at George Washington High School up in Washington Heights section of Manhattan. And among its famous graduates are Henry Kissinger, then of course the renowned Tiny Tim, who my mother knew. So with or without the ukulele.
But he was probably tiny, right?
Yes, he was tiny. His mother walked him to high school, so
really?
so he had issues right from the beginning. But it was, my mother was a Newman, and at Teachers College, one of the great figures was John Dewey. And at one summer I said, I'm at Teachers College, so I might as well start reading the great classic works while I'm here before deciding on a dissertation topic. And it was through Dewey I started reading some of the works of John Henry Newman, Cardinal Newman, and just was hooked. Here was a man of the university. His letter and diaries, about his time as when he was president of the university, dealing with the board. It's almost like the classic prescription on what to do and what not to do. But it also gave you a good sense of what the university should be, and devoted towards the success of its students.
So how does this bring us to current day in terms of your philosophy of leadership in leading an academic institution? How did that serve the foundation, and what's your thoughts about that today?
What I learned from Newman, there's a lot of literature, a lot of speech making on the president as leader. Vision, goals, fundraising. But what I got from Newman is what the real secret is that the president really serves the university, serves the faculty, serves the staff, and most of all serves the students. And when those groups that compose, the heart and soul of the university really feel that their president is amicable, open, and serving them and the university, that's when you have a successful presidency. That you're in it with them both emotionally, spiritually, and intellectually. And that's one of my opening speeches. I'm your leader, but I'm also your chief servant, supporter, and cheerleader.
Because that's a really interesting, eclectic combination of things. I mean, to have to do the fundraising, to have the vision, to be in touch with the student body. How do you embody that?
24/7?
Yeah, right.
Well, what I mean by 24/7 is you have to have the passion. You have to love this. So in one case, some people may view this as daunting and challenging. That is not the right approach. The right approach is, I'm the luckiest man in the world to get this position as president. With all that's going on in the universe, to be able to say that myself, our faculty and staff are essentially raising, with their parents, with their, if they're religious, we are raising the next generation of Western Connecticut and the state of Connecticut. And what an exciting and noble profession to be. So we're training, nursing, healthcare, some of our students are being heroes going into the military, law enforcement, the business leaders, and you get this wonderful joy of seeing a 17 or 18-year-old come in, still basically a teenager, and then you see them at commencement come in as grown, they're adults now and ready to take their position as that next generation. And there's no better feeling in the world than commencement day.
So it's interesting, you said that your mother was your hero, and she was really, ahead of her time in a way in terms of getting her degree, and you have two daughters.
Yes.
So I'm just curious, in terms of, can you speak to women in education and what your thought is? Because I know one of your daughters is in college and one's going to be a senior in high school, is that right?
Bridget's going to a sophomore in high school.
Okay.
So I know all about paying college tuitions. So that's why I'm a huge advocate of public higher education.
Yeah, so how does that affect and impact your perspective on education? Because you have two children right at that age.
Well, as father, I love public higher education because of our mission, and I want to fulfill everyone's American dream. And that's why I'm a great admirer of our community colleges. And I was just speaking to some of the middle schoolers with our mayor about living the American dream, and hopefully they all come to Western Connecticut, become highly successful, and give their millions back to our favorite university. But when you're a parent, and we can chat, about fit, college. There's so many choices out there today. And especially with the affordability question is, what's the best fit for your daughter? And as a parent, you sacrifice. And one of the things that I'm a big promoter, and it's my mother again. I love my dad too. But,
he's in the picture.
But it's one of the things that will work with the campus and shared government with our faculty and staff are women in STEM, but now we have another name is women in STEAM.
What is that?
And that is science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics. And the beauty of that is tying in.
I have not heard of that before.
Yeah,
is that new?
It's fairly new, yes.
It's building
arts
STEAM.
And sciences, yes, building STEAM. But giving the young women the appropriate environment to grow and bloom. And giving them that support network that, yes, you can do it, because there's so many stereotypes and discriminatory patterns that are either conscious or unconscious, that you need that positive support that you can do it, whether it's in biology or physics, advanced calculus, give them mentors and give them the support. And that's one of the things we're certainly going to promote. And we have a lot of supporters on campus and a lot of interested faculty. Of course, we'll take care of our guys too, but people, different groups need those special programs, as far as their advisement and support. And we're here to see our students, at commencement. And that's why we're here, to see them succeed.
So it's interesting. I mean, you've been through the process once. You're going to go through the process again with your own children. But what advice would you give, a parent or a student who's at the age now, going into maybe their senior year, and they're starting to look at trying to decide what's the best fit college? Of course, the parents are going to think about what's the best value.
Yes.
But the students, what's really the best fit for them? What advice would you give them? Because it's overwhelming when you look at the choices. I mean, I have a daughter who's going to college in August. She just graduated. So I've just lived through that process. But what advice would you give to students or parents?
Well, actually, to young parents, start as early as you can. For the student, when you're entering in high school, I mean, two of the determinants, obviously the SAT and GPA, and the third, which is very important, and some people overlook, is extracurricular activities, either to community, athletics, or student government. So you have more choices. Obviously, the higher your SAT score, your GPA, and the more extracurricular activities. Then, as far as the college choice, I mean, create your own list. Because there's so much information out there.
There is.
Students are in sensory overload, and you have to look at your basics. You just mentioned affordability. And I'm a walking advertisement for Western Connecticut, where public education, the quality, and our price point should be there, is reachable, especially with scholarships. So, geographics. Does a student want to go away to school or stay? And then the different reasons for picking an institution. One very simple one is maybe their mom and dad or their brother and sister went to an institution, they really like it, or their friends. But more on the academic programming, is always a consideration. Sometimes it's the intangible. Go visit a college, university, and kick the tires. Walk around the campus.
So you get the culture, the feel of the...
That's very important, and that's why one of the things we pride ourselves in Western Connecticut is, especially with our maintenance crew, are very important people. Keep the lawn cut, keep the buildings up, because that impresses parents.
Well, it's a pretty campus.
Oh, it is, both of them.
The West Side and
Midtown, right? And then also you'll see two general types of seniors. One, who know what they want to do. So at Western, nursing. If a young lady, young man wants to become a nurse, they are pretty well set. They know what they want to do. They're all set to go. Or, they come into our...
You know what, I didn't realize, excuse me a minute, but I didn't realize, so WestConn has a really good nursing program.
Excellent. And highly competitive.
Yeah, and do a lot of the graduates end up working locally?
Oh, absolutely.
Because, I'll tell you, my daughter was born in Danbury Hospital, and I had phenomenal care by the nurses there.
And chances are most of them were WestConn grads.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So what brought you to WestConn specifically? Because I know have you lived in New York most of your life?
I've lived, this was my life plan. My life plan was to be one wife, one family, one home,
Okay.
one home, living there for 30 or 40 years, and
Yeah.
one job, 30, 40 years, and retire.
That was
So
it.
1 out of 3 isn't bad. I have my wife, I have my daughters. After that, kablooey. So
Yeah. You thought you would work at one place your whole career?
that's it, just like my father, you know. But as my wife said, it's like my immigrant grandparents. You know, it's like you work till you drop, because I've been all over the place. But the thing
Yeah.
is, I love it. But you know what happened is I was at the State University of New York.
Yeah.
I'd worked on Wall Street, where I was a healthcare and higher ed analyst, by the way. So I knew college and universities from a financial side. So the transition, and also I've been a lifelong student.
You know what? Can we just pause for a minute
Sure.
there? That's probably an unusual background for a president of a university to have such a strong financial background.
Yes.
And a very good background to have.
Yes.
Especially these days. So that's wonderful.
And also I have a degree in philosophy, so go figure.
Like what an interesting combination.
Yeah, but I see it as we tend to, you know, divide things. This is our logical points. It's like going to a department store. You know, this is department over there, this department there.
Yeah.
But I think that's helpful to a certain extent. But what I love about being a university president is talking to all the professors. I just love knowledge, and I see it as sort of interrelated and unified. We were talking about, you know, those two types of student. I wanted to mention the other type of student, because one of the largest quote-unquote majors incoming is undecided. So you'll see the student who, for example, wants to major in business at Western Connecticut, or go into a justice of law administration, get into law enforcement. But more often than not, you have students who, 17, 18, they really don't know what they want to do. So what I believe is what we now call, the fancy terminology, is the T type of education, where it's an inverted T, like this.
Okay.
And that's why people ask us, why do you have a core curriculum? It's really to expand
That's the core
students
curriculum, and then they
into
focus.
critical thinking, but expand their worlds. You know, the example I give, I was talking to a dad whose son was majoring in business. He said, well, why does my son have to know about international politics and history?
Wow.
I said, if your son goes into international currency trading,
Yeah.
he's going to have to understand the Middle East and have to understand what's going on in the world.
Absolutely.
I've been there on the street, and these guys know their stuff. So you have to expand. And also, there are students who, you know, haven't declared a major yet.
Yeah.
You know, let them, you know, expand their minds and pick up those type of abilities they'll need, which are transferable in today's world, where they may have, like I've had, 15 or 16 different jobs, and then decide in their junior and senior year to really focus. That is the vertical line. So the horizontal, you know, for your first 2 years,
Yeah.
and then that vertical in the last 2 years, where you really start to specialize and to prepare you for the job market and your life beyond.
Yeah, so you mentioned how your career has sort of played itself out, very different than your father's generation. And the up and coming next generation is probably going to be even more different.
Oh, yeah.
So what advice would you give a college student or a soon to be graduating college student, career advice in terms of just perspective on their career?
It's the type of skills that are on that horizontal line.
Yeah.
It's when I talk to business leaders and corporate leaders, I mean, they talk about teamwork, work in a team. Writing skills, communication skills. So for example, I'll give you an example of what we'll do at Western Connecticut. We're going to start a program in student entrepreneurship.
Fantastic.
And I remember people asking me, well, student entrepreneurs, you know, what's your success rate? It can't be that high. And I looked them straight in the face and I said, our success rate is going to be 100%. They go, 100%?
Starting new businesses.
Yes. And I said, what I mean is we're a pedagogical institution. Remember, we started as Danbury Normal School. What we excel in is teaching, which is so important. America has great research universities, and we do research at Western Connecticut. But what the students will learn, and many of them may, quote unquote, fail in starting a new business, but to learn how to develop a business plan, know how to communicate, know how to do a business pitch, know how to interrelate, and most importantly, and just to your question, they'll know how to pivot. like this didn't work,
Yeah,
or this
yeah.
job
Learn
here,
from their experience.
I have to go to another job.
Yeah.
And this is the ways we live in a very dynamic culture.
Yep.
And this is a generation, with the digital age, mass media and communications,
Yeah.
that is a much different generation, than ours. Because
Yeah.
I had started in the one job philosophy,
Yeah.
and guess
That's out the window.
what? So it's those type of programs where the students have a chance to, try it out both in the classroom and outside the classroom.
That's exciting. So how would you crystallize WestConn's unique value proposition?
Our unique value proposition is given in our history as a teacher's college. And it's those two senses of, number one, passing our wisdom, the older generation, our knowledge, to our students. This is the next generation, and we're very much aware of that in Western Connecticut. That makes us unique. What's
So
the name?
that teaching, mentoring sense.
Yes, passing on the wisdom, the skill sets, the knowledge, so they can succeed, giving them the ability to search new knowledge, which we call research. So when they come up, they pass that on to the following generation.
Yes.
But most importantly for us is the name on the door. We're not John Smith College, we're Western Connecticut State University.
Yes.
So we're devoted to, number one, certainly the greater Danbury area, Waterbury, but all of Western Connecticut, and then the state of Connecticut as a whole. And that we owe to the taxpayers that support us and our students. And that's, as I said, is so exciting on commencement, because there goes yet another cohort of students off on their way. And most of our students, what I love about Western Connecticut, will stay, work, and live and produce in Western Connecticut. And that is our mission.
Really, is there a large percentage?
Oh, most of our students will stay, sure.
And are most of the students from Western Connecticut?
Most, we have, at this particular point in time, we do have students coming in from New York State, but I would say over 90% of our students are from the state of Connecticut, with a large concentration in Western Connecticut.
Oh, it's interesting. I mean, I for some reason I'm surprised about that. But so, what is WestConn doing to cultivate the innovation and critical thinking of students? I know you mentioned the Common Core from a critical thinking perspective, but from an innovation standpoint.
That's the type of stuff the programs will be creating, like Women in STEAM, student entrepreneurship.
Yep.
And what's even more important is our relations with the local community.
Yes.
So for example, I'll be speaking with our Chamber of Commerce, but also Chambers of Commerce through Western Connecticut in our service area. But why? Why isn't to enlist their help? No, most people think, aha, here comes the dollar sign pitch. And that's helpful. We always love contributions, but more they have our local business folks, mentors, if we have women scientists, working.
Internships?
Internships, so to really get, where our students make the connection, what they're learning with their life experiences, and really transforming them in what they want to be, and giving them that help. And that not only do our professors, our faculty and staff serve as mentors, but also the outside, outside the university gates. So they're exposed to real life experiences.
So that's part of your vision, is to create even stronger ties with the business community?
Community, business relationships, not-for-profits, we have to be tied. The days of the ivory tower are long gone. And what I also love about Western Connecticut, we're right in the city of Danbury. So our students get the full sense of, vibrating life, The other exciting thing is our students, we're hopefully, keep our fingers crossed, coming out of the recession, coming into a building era. So get used to, what the tough times have been. We've weathered that, and now let's get up and get positive.
So do you track the percentage of students that get jobs upon graduation?
Sure.
And what is that?
Right now, from our last data, over 85% of our students were placed in meaningful jobs. But I'll tell you.
How's that define meaningful?
Meaningful means, I'm not going to mention any names, but let's say jobs that you don't need a college degree to have. Because a number of those places, don't tell my wife and daughters, I still frequent and eat at.
So meaningful meaning you need a college degree.
But yes, exactly.
Yeah, okay.
But I'll tell you what's most important in the survey for me in our career services,
Yes.
which we'll put additional investment in, is when you come to Western Connecticut, we can't guarantee anybody a job, but what we can guarantee is Western Connecticut will always be there for our students. So you simply don't get a degree and it's bye-bye.
So your career center is very supportive
Yes.
across the lifespan?
When we take our annual survey, I want to know as president how many students were not placed either in a meaningful job,
Yes.
did not go on to graduate school, or join the military.
Okay.
And say it's 5%. We need to be in contact with those students. Come back and see us. Talk to our career service councils. Let's start making phone calls. We are an ongoing service. And
So there's outreach there.
Oh, there has to be outreach.
That's
and there has to be
phenomenal.
an extended outreach. And that's how you build your real alumni base and loyalty to the
Absolutely.
university.
So we've got about 2 minutes left, and so I'm just wondering, in your first 3 weeks on the job, if you can just give us like a snapshot in terms of what you're finding and what your vision is for your tenure here.
Well, I'll tell you, it's been one great surprise after another great surprise. If you walked in the Visual and Performing Arts Center,
Yeah.
it completely knocked my socks off.
Really?
It's like a wow. But the number of our academic programs, 39 academic programs, the amount of knowledge and wisdom in our faculty, staff, what also, I felt right at home. It's a warm welcome. Danbury's a wonderful place to live, and hopefully we'll be recruiting students from hither and thither, but it's the history of the institution, what's meant for so many generations, and continuing that legacy, which President Schmada just left us, and we'll certainly pick that up, and continue to improve in all the facets that will make Western Connecticut State University, the university it should be, serving the people of Western Connecticut and the entire state. And devoted, if there's two words you ask me about to define the university, it's student success.
Student success.
Student success.
In terms of preparing students to be successful.
Yes, exactly. In life, in occupation, just prepare them for life. Because, here it's a tough life. There's plenty of challenges, there's plenty of joyful moments. But what they will learn, during these, the years they're with us, should prepare them for life beyond. And they're always welcome back to their home, their alma mater, Western Connecticut.
That's fantastic. So if somebody was so inspired by our talk tonight, what would be their first point of inquiry if they had questions or follow-up?
I will invite anybody to email me at the president's office.
Really?
Oh,
Okay,
absolutely.
so give us your email.
It's simple, president@wcsu.edu.
Just do it one more time in case people need it.
president@wcsu.edu.
Fantastic. Thank you so much
Hey,
for joining
my
us.
pleasure.
I'm really inspired. Okay, I'm Susan Shaner. Thank you for joining us. Until next time with Community Forum.
So does your daughter want to go to Western Connecticut?